Welcome everyone to the deep dive brought to you by Rugby Obsession.
Great to be here.
Today we're jumping into something pretty fascinating that's buzzing around the rugby world. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding the real tricky bits of top-level rugby strategy.
Absolutely. It's more than just the score.
Exactly. So if you love getting into the tactics, the why behind the game, you are definitely in the right place. And hey, before we get stuck in, make sure you hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession. Wherever you listen, you really don't want to miss our deep dives.
Definitely worth it.
Okay, so our focus, that recent Springboks versus Italy test. On the surface, a solid win for the Books, right? But Rassie Erasmus's reaction, well, that was something else.
Yeah, unexpected is putting it mildly.
So our mission today is simple. Unpack what actually happened, figure out why Rassie was frustrated despite, winning, and what this all signals for Springbok selections going forward.
It's all about getting those quick, sharp insights into how these top coaches operate under immense pressure.
And the pressure is immense, even maybe especially after a win sometimes.
Oh, for sure. What looks like success on the scoreboard can feel very different inside the coaching box. It's about standards, execution, this whole Erasmus situation. It's a perfect window into that relentless drive for perfection, even when you technically get the W.
Right. Okay, let's set the scene then. Loftus Versfeld. Final score. South Africa 42, Italy 24.
Yep. Pretty convincing scoreline.
And looking at the first half, they were absolutely flying. What was it, 28-3 at halftime?
That's right, commanding lead against an Italian side that, let's be honest, most people probably expected to fade a bit.
You'd think comfortable position, job done almost, cruising.
That would be the logical assumption, yeah. Full control.
But then the shift.
Yeah.
And Rassie's reaction, despite 6 tries, he comes out and says he's clearly frustrated. His exact words were, I guess it's a positive that we scored 6 tries, but we're frustrated.
That's the quote that jumps out, isn't it?
It really does. It sets up this paradox. Winning, scoring tries, but still frustrated. How does that work?
Well, it really speaks volumes about the standards, doesn't it? Yeah. At this level, international rugby, it's not just if you win, it's how.
Okay.
It's about executing the game plan, hitting the performance markers they set internally. He even said he didn't pick up in the week that this was the way we were going to perform.
So a disconnect between training and the match.
Seems like it. A big one. He did say it's all fixable, which is, constructive. But that frustration, it comes from feeling the team just didn't deliver that complete 80-minute performance he demands. It wasn't sustained excellence.
Which brings us straight to the selections for the next test in Gqeberha, because his comments there were, well, pretty direct.
Very direct, especially revealing that initial selections were basically locked in.
Yeah, he said they were pre-planned, told the players, like 13, 14 players, that will definitely get a run next week.
And now,
yeah,
those plans are being revisited, changed.
That's a huge signal, isn't it? Shows how much that one performance, even in a win, immediately impacts his thinking. Every minute counts.
It's a live audition. Always.
And he was careful, though. Said the guys initially picked won't be totally discarded, but some might drop to the bench.
Right. And maybe even more telling, he suggested some real standout players from this first test might actually start again.
So no resting on laurels. Perform well. You might keep your spot even if the plan was different. Perform below par.
And your spot's up for grabs. It's crystal clear. Performance trumps plans.
What's the core issue driving this rethink, then?
He nailed it down to one thing. Needing a team that can go 80 minutes. That's the quote.
80 minutes? Because Italy didn't fade.
Exactly. Italy's physicality, their endurance, it really shone a spotlight on that requirement. Erasmus talked about the challenge of picking 9 guys to go with the others, and we have to decide whether they start or come off the bench. It's finding that perfect mix. The starters, the impact players who can maintain intensity and accuracy for the whole match. Not just skill, but sustained execution under pressure.
And that pressure, it affects players too. He mentioned players having just a few bruised egos.
Yeah, that's quite a statement after a win. Shows the feedback was probably pretty blunt.
Definitely implies the performance review wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. It's not just physical bruises in this game.
No, the mental side is huge. Elite sport is tough. Even when the team wins, your individual contribution is under the microscope. It's that relentless drive again. Every player, every minute. Any dip, any lapse in concentration or effort, it gets noticed. You've got to adapt, constantly improve.
Like building something complex, every single part needs to work perfectly the whole time.
Spot on.
No. we can't talk about the Box's frustration without giving Italy their due, can we? They were a massive part of this story.
Absolutely crucial. And Rassie was quick to praise them, which I think is important. He didn't just blame his own side.
What did he say about them specifically?
He said, we knew they would man up, and they certainly manned up in most departments. Scrums, mauls, defense, attack. He called it a proper test match.
Credit to Italy, direct quote.
Yeah. It acknowledges that South Africa's issues weren't just internal. Italy brought serious heat. They were organized, physical.
And Rassie pointed to that specific moment, didn't he? After the disallowed try, when the Boks were 28-3 up, said the momentum just evaporated.
He did. And Italy were sharp enough to sense that shift and really pounce on it. That shows good game awareness from them.
Incredible resilience, too, making, what was it, 120 tackles in the first half?
Astounding work rate.
Yeah.
And they stayed fit and passionate. Even under that early scoreboard pressure, they didn't break.
No, they didn't. Rassie felt they could easily have come back into it at the end.
And crucially, he said Italy didn't allow the Springboks to play their game. They disrupted the flow, forced errors, made it messy.
Which explains why he described the game as stop, start, not the dominance he wanted.
Exactly. That lack of rhythm, that inability to impose their will, especially in the second half, that's a major source of frustration for a coach like him.
Definitely wasn't the smooth, powerful performance they were probably aiming for. And look, if you're appreciating this kind of deep dive, getting beyond the scoreline, remember to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We do this all the time, breaking down the strategy.
Yeah, please do.
So connecting this specific match back to the bigger picture, what does it tell us about elite coaching?
Well, it shows that even when you tick some boxes, you win. You score 6 tries, you avoid major injuries. Thankfully, apart from De Lande's hamstring niggle.
Right, which seemed minor.
Yeah, hopefully. But even with those positives, top coaches are always looking for more. They want the complete performance, full execution of the plan by everyone for 80 minutes. They dissect everything. The small details that make up the big picture. Consistent application is everything.
It really highlights how dynamic this job is, doesn't it? You have your plans, your strategies, but you have to be ready to adapt on the fly, based on what's happening right there on the pitch, what the opposition is throwing at you. It's never static.
Never. It's a constant chess match, reacting and adjusting in real time.
And understanding that, I think, just gives you a whole new appreciation for rugby.
Totally agree. It adds layers. You start seeing the strategic battles, the psychological pressure, the constant search for tiny improvements. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. So for you listening, the takeaway is that every single game, even a win like this, is packed with lessons. For the teams, obviously, but for us watching too. And that kind of brings us towards the end of this Rugby Obsession deep dive.
Time flies.
It does. So just to quickly recap, the big lesson here is that a win isn't always just a win in elite rugby. For coaches like Rassie Erasmus, success is measured against really high internal standards, that full 80-minute performance, sticking to the script. They're always evaluating, tweaking, pushing for more.
Always striving for that next level. Yeah. Which leaves us with something to think about, maybe.
Go for it.
Well, beyond just the points on the board, what really does a successful performance in pro rugby? And how do these coaches juggle those meticulous pregame plans with the absolute chaos and unpredictability of a live test match?
That's a good one. Balancing the plan with reality, the coach's constant tightrope walk.
Exactly.
Something definitely to chew on. Right. Thank you so much for joining us for this Rugby Obsession deep dive. Please do remember to subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your podcasts, your deep dives, so you don't miss the next one.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. We'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.